All right, imagine trying to take 4.6 billion years of boiling lava, colossal cosmic collisions, and the ultimate desperate fight for survival, and somehow packing all of that into a single, seamless explainer. Well, that's exactly what we're doing today. We are embarking on an absolutely epic journey. We're going to witness how our world transformed from a completely toxic fireball into a lush home for giants, and eventually, how a vulnerable upright walking primate managed to conquer the globe and build complex civilizations. We have got some truly incredible ground to cover, so let's jump right in and travel back to the very beginning.
4.6 billion. It's a number so huge, it's honestly kind of hard to even wrap our heads around. But to truly understand the beautiful, life-filled blue planet we know today, we have to rewind 4.6 billion years to a time when Earth was essentially just a silent, toxic, burning ball of fire. There were no trees, no animals, definitely no humans, just constantly erupting volcanoes, sprawling rivers of glowing red lava, and skies completely choked with smoke and ash. It was, for all intents and purposes, a hostile, unbreathable wasteland. So, we've got a roadmap for this ultimate story of survival. We are going to trace the major milestones where life constantly faced what seemed like totally impossible odds. We'll start from the formation of the Earth 4.6 billion years ago, take a massive leap forward to 230 million years ago when the very first dinosaurs appeared, brace ourselves for the devastating asteroid impact 65 million years ago, track the amazing emergence of our own species, Homo sapiens, around 300,000 years ago, and bring it all the way home to the agricultural revolution just 11,000 years ago.
Okay, to make this massive timeline a bit more manageable, we're going to break it down into 6 clear milestones: Earth's fiery beginnings, the rise and fall of dinosaurs, the emergence of Homo sapiens, the cognitive revolution, conquering the Ice Age, and finally, the birth of early civilizations.
Let's dive right in with Milestone 1, Earth's fiery beginnings.
Picture this. After millions of years of just absolute volcanic chaos, a relentless, non-stop rain finally cooled the scorching magma, filling these massive basins that eventually became our oceans. Now, while the air above still remained this deadly mix of toxic gases, deep underwater, microscopic life sparked a literal miracle. Some of these tiny organisms began to do something totally unprecedented. They started producing the very first oxygen. It's crazy to think about, but this tiny, microscopic biological adaptation is what transformed a toxic, unbreathable atmosphere into a lush, green world capable of supporting complex life.
Moving right along to Milestone 2, the rise and fall of dinosaurs.
Now, fast forward to the Triassic period, about 230 million years ago. You're probably picturing massive monsters right out of the gate, right? Well, actually, in the early Triassic, the very first dinosaurs were tiny. They were these agile little hunters only about the size of a fox, but nature pushed them. Over millions of years, driven by the need to reach higher food and defend themselves against predators, they evolved into towering giants. By the late Jurassic, you had absolute behemoths like the Brachiosaurus. We're talking 85 feet long and weighing over 40 tons. And the Titanosaurus? It was so incredibly massive that if it laid down, it would hide an entire football field. Their footsteps literally shook the earth.
But then, the universe threw the ultimate curveball, 70,000 kilometers per hour. Just think about that terrifying speed for a second. About 65 million years ago, a massive asteroid, estimated to be a staggering 10 to 15 kilometers wide, pierced the silence of space at 70,000 kilometers per hour and slammed violently into the coast of modern-day Mexico. In the blink of an eye, the reign of these giants was completely over. What followed was just a sudden, eerie darkness. The impact triggered tsunamis thousands of feet high. Entire forests burned, and for months, smoke and ash completely blocked out the sun. A freezing cold settled in, leaving a starved, devastated planet. So the really crucial takeaway here is that sheer physical size and dominance were absolutely no match for cosmic trauma. The giant dinosaurs starved and vanished, which ended up clearing the evolutionary stage for a new, tiny, hiding underdog, mammals.
Which brings us to Milestone 3, the emergence of Homo sapiens.
Jumping ahead to about 25 million years ago, things are getting chilly. Dropping global temperatures caused Africa's dense, sprawling forests to thin out into open grasslands, and this environmental shift forced a revolutionary adaptation, bipedalism. The primates living up in the trees had to actually come down to the ground to find food in these new wide-open spaces. Walking upright on 2 legs was the very first major physical step toward becoming human. It freed up our hands, it allowed us to see over the tall grasses to spot predators, and it essentially changed our destiny forever.
Fast forward to 300,000 years ago, and early Homo sapiens finally step onto the scene. And let me tell you, life was unbelievably perilous. They lived in these small, incredibly tight-knit groups of maybe 10 to 20 people, and they were constantly hunted by faster, much stronger predators. Back then, there were no kings, no laws, none of that. Only three things mattered: hunger, the constant fear of death, and this incredibly stubborn will to survive. They relied entirely on basic stone tools, the warmth of a fire, and most importantly, each other.
Next up, Milestone 4, the Cognitive Revolution.
So, how exactly did we go from terrified foragers to absolute masters of the planet, especially when species like Homo erectus were physically way stronger than us? Well, the secret is the cognitive revolution. It was a literal explosion in brain power. Yes, it gave us complex language, but it wasn't just about warning the group that a lion was hiding in the bushes. The real game changer was imagination. We could suddenly invent gods, spirits, and shared fictional stories. This is massive, because believing in the exact same shared myths uniquely allowed thousands of human strangers to cooperate and work together. And that is something no other animal on Earth can do.
Armed with this incredible new brain power, sapiens started migrating out of Africa roughly 60,000 to 70,000 years ago. But they weren't stepping into an empty world. In Europe, they bumped into the Neanderthals, and over in Asia, the Denisovans. Now, for the longest time, the old myth was that our sapiens ancestors completely and violently eradicated these other human species. But modern DNA evidence has revealed a pretty shocking reality. Sapiens actually assimilated, lived right alongside, and even interbred with them. Just think about that for a second. Today, folks of European and Asian descent actually carry up to 4% Neanderthal DNA. Indigenous populations in South Asia and Australia carry Denisovan DNA. We didn't just wipe them out. We literally absorbed them into our species. We lived with them, we formed families, and their genetic legacy is literally surviving right inside of us today.
Moving on to Milestone 5, conquering the Ice Age.
So, around 20,000 years ago, the Earth plummets into a deep freeze. To really grasp the sheer severity of this ice age, just look at this staggering drop. Minus 120 meters. Global temperatures tanked to minus 20 degrees Celsius. The oceans literally froze into these massive glaciers, which caused global sea levels to drop by an astonishing 120 meters, exposing land bridges that early humans could actually walk right across. It was a bleak, freezing, completely unforgiving world.
And honestly, this right here is what illustrates our absolute greatest strength. While other massive animals just couldn't handle the cold and perished, humans adapted. We didn't throw in the towel. We started crafting warm clothing out of animal skins, we kept fires constantly burning inside caves to act as our shields, and we fundamentally altered our habits. Think about it. Without GPS, without maps, without any modern medicine, humans managed to cross freezing tundras and scorching deserts. Our ultimate superpower was, and still is, adaptability.
Finally, we reach Milestone 6, the birth of early civilizations.
About 11,000 years ago, the Earth finally starts to warm up, giving us a much-needed break from that non-stop survival mode. Let's walk through how this agricultural revolution played out. Step 1. The ice melts, carving out these life-giving rivers. Step 2. Humans, who had pretty much always been nomadic hunters, realize they can finally settle down permanently. Step 3. They start planting seeds and taming animals. Boom, farming begins. And step 4. This is the real game changer. Free time. Because they weren't frantically chasing food all day, every day, they could invent. They started creating art, weaving cotton, and eventually discovering and shaping copper into strong, durable tools. The whole concept of home was officially born. As people settled down near these new rivers, massive civilizations began to pop up. And it brilliantly illustrates how differently human societies can develop. Take Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley, for example. In Mesopotamia, they're building these towering mud brick ziggurats, writing down the very first laws, and their kings were literally viewed as gods. But over in the Indus Valley, they were absolute engineering marvels. They had grid streets and underground drainage systems thousands of years ago. Yet, strangely enough, archaeologists haven't found evidence of obvious kings or large weapons there, which suggests a society focused much more heavily on peaceful trade and advanced engineering. But overall, as populations absolutely exploded into the tens of thousands, a whole new, organized society had to take shape to keep things running.
You now had very distinct roles. You had farmers feeding the cities, artisans crafting tools, merchants traveling miles to trade goods, soldiers stepping up for protection, and at the very top of it all, priests and kings ruling through a combination of early taxation, written laws, and organized religion. Those egalitarian hunter-gatherer days? Long gone. Highly structured society had officially arrived. Which brings us to a pretty provocative thought to wrap things up today. From surviving the frozen wilderness as terrified, hunted nomads to building incredibly complex, highly structured civilizations with laws and advanced engineering, what will human adaptability conquer next? It is seriously amazing to look back on this 4.6 billion year journey, from a silent rock of boiling lava to the vibrant, hyper-connected world we live in right now. If you made it all the way to the end of this incredible timeline with me today, drop a comment below and let me know. Thanks so much for learning with me.